Chosen one, what if I told you that your loneliness isn't a flaw? It's a sign that your need for space, your discomfort in crowds, and the exhaustion you feel around certain people aren't random, they're divine signals. It's not that you're antisocial or overly sensitive, it's that your energy is prophetic. You've been set apart not to be punished, but to be prepared. You might have spent years feeling misunderstood, but what if the reason so many pull away from you or seem to attack your light is because they can't handle your frequency? This video will uncover the hidden truth about your separation, reveal the deeper purpose behind your sensitivity, and show you why God's hand is all over this process. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. By the end of this video, you'll understand that your solitude isn't a weakness. It's the foundation of your strength. Number 1, the distortion of silence. They have always feared what they cannot define, and your silence has been their deepest confusion. When you do not speak, they begin to project their own fears onto you, inventing motives and weaknesses that do not exist. Your stillness has been read as surrender, when in truth it is a withdrawal into the higher courts where your spirit meets with God. They have mistaken your absence for emptiness, never knowing that in the quiet you have been storing revelation. It is in that unbroken stillness that your eyes have been sharpened to see beyond the surface of their words. Like Nehemiah, who refused to come down from the wall when distractions called, you have learned that some answers are not worth speaking. The silence they mock is the same silence that keeps you immune to their manipulation. It shields you from battles meant to drain you before your real assignment begins. They will always misunderstand what they cannot control, and your quiet has been beyond their reach. Comment silent if you've ever felt their confusion grow stronger the less you spoke, and share a moment when you saw the truth without having to speak it. Because this misunderstanding is not an obstacle, it is the first stage of your unveiling. There is an image that comes to you sometimes, though you've never spoken it aloud. A room without walls, filled with light that doesn't seem to come from the sun. In this space, you are not required to explain yourself. No one is asking why you are quiet or where you have gone. The stillness here is not questioned, it is honored. You've visited this place in dreams and in waking moments when the noise of the world dulled for just a breath, and something deep in your chest exhaled. This is the space your spirit knows as home, the place where you meet the one who formed you before the beginning. Even when your mind doubted, you felt the pull toward this invisible refuge. And yet, in the world outside, they have never understood it. They see your silence and decide it must be filled with their own conclusions. They take the blank page of your stillness and write their fears, their judgments, their projections upon it. What they cannot name, they cannot control, and what they cannot control, they will always fear. There were days when you wondered if maybe they were right about you. You replayed moments in your mind where you chose not to speak, not to defend yourself, and you questioned if you had surrendered too easily. Friends drifted away because you didn't rush to prove them wrong. Colleagues thought your refusal to join the noise was arrogance. Family accused you of pulling back when they needed you to explain yourself. And yet, in the secret chambers of your heart, you knew this was not retreat, it was preservation. You were listening to a rhythm they could not hear, like the deep pulse beneath the earth before a river breaks through rock. You remember the ache of being misunderstood, the sting of accusations that were never true. But you also remember the strange clarity that came when you stayed silent long enough to hear the whisper under the storm. That whisper was never wrong. And in that moment, you began to suspect that your quiet was not weakness, it was alignment. The truth is that none of this has been random. Your life has been traced by an unseen architecture, each moment of silence built into the design. Like the walls of Jericho that stood until the appointed day, your restraint has been part of a divine timing that others cannot comprehend. They think in terms of reaction, but you were trained for revelation. Isaiah 30 verse 15 says, "In quietness and trust is your strength." And you are beginning to see that this was not a suggestion. It was a blueprint for your survival. Every time you held your tongue, something was happening in the unseen realms. You were not absent from the battle, you were fighting it in a higher court. While they thought you were doing nothing, heaven recorded your patience as faith. And the longer you stayed in that stillness, the more your spirit began to see through their words into the motives beneath them. Perhaps you've noticed it, the subtle moments when the veil thins. A dream that felt too real to dismiss, where someone you trust speaks a warning or a promise. A passing conversation in which a single phrase lights up in your spirit like a beacon. The feeling of déjà vu that stops you mid-step, as if you are standing in a moment you've already lived. Even the physical sensations, a heaviness in your chest before an untrustworthy person enters the room. A sudden calm when you decide not to answer a provocation. These are not coincidences. They are small, deliberate confirmations that your silence is tuned to a different frequency. You begin to see patterns, threads woven through years of experiences that you thought were disconnected. They are not. They are markers, guiding you through the terrain of your own awakening. There comes a point when you realize you were never imagining it. The intuition you doubted was, in fact, the spirit leading you. You did not fabricate the sense that you were being protected from battles that were not yours to fight. You were not too sensitive when certain rooms made your soul feel heavier, nor were you weak when you walked away from conflicts that promised only chaos. This inner knowing has been with you since before you could name it. Like a seed lying dormant under winter snow, it waited for the right season to push through the soil. You have reached the season where the soil begins to warm, and as that awareness blooms, you no longer feel the need to convince anyone else of its reality. You know what you know, and you are finally giving yourself permission to trust it. It becomes clear that awakening is not about becoming something you've never been. It is about remembering what you have always carried. The world taught you to doubt, to speak over your own knowing, to trade the whisper for the shout. But beneath all those layers is a version of you that still remembers the first language, the one without words, where understanding flows like water without needing to be explained. This is why the quiet feels so sacred. It is not emptiness. It is the original ground of your being. When you touch it, you feel older than your years, wiser than your experiences, and steadier than the chaos around you. This is your inheritance, and it has been waiting for you to reclaim it. You are not building a new self. You are recovering the one that was never lost, only hidden. With this remembering comes the first step into your power. You no longer see your sensitivity as a liability. It is the compass that keeps you from wandering into traps. You no longer view your silence as passivity. It is the shield that preserves your strength for the battles that matter. You begin to realize that every time you withheld a reaction, you reclaimed a piece of your energy. And with each piece, you feel yourself becoming whole again. This is the quiet strength that unnerves those who thrive on control. They can no longer predict you, and they can no longer drain you. You are no longer at the mercy of their noise. And in this space, you start to sense the first stirrings of a deeper calling, one that will require all the clarity you have been gathering in the shadows. So now you stand here not by chance, but by alignment. Every road, every wound, every silent choice has led to this moment of recognition. You have arrived at a threshold, and beyond it is the life you were always meant to live. This is not the end of your silence. It is the beginning of understanding its purpose. Comment Silent Rising if you have ever felt this pull toward a truth you could not yet name, and share the moment when you first suspected that your path was more than coincidence. Because this is only the first unveiling. Ahead lies the deeper reason your silence disrupts their plans, and why it will become the very force that ushers in your next assignment. And once you see it, you will never walk the same way again. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. Number 2, God's whisper over the world's roar. They thrive in chaos because chaos makes them feel powerful, but God is not found in the noise they worship. Like Elijah in 1 Kings 19 verse 12, you've discovered that the Lord bypasses the earthquake, the wind, and the fire to speak in a whisper. In your stillness, you've learned to hear that whisper when the rest of the world is drowning in distraction. That is why they cannot understand you. You are tuned to a frequency they will never find in their constant motion. They believe answers must be loud, dramatic, and public, but you have learned that the loudest direction from heaven often arrives in quiet moments no one sees. This is why your silence is not absence but alignment, keeping you close to the one who guides without spectacle. Your discernment grows in these moments, and with it, the ability to separate truth from deception. They wanted you reactive so you would miss the voice of God. Instead, you withdrew and became dangerous to their plans. Every time you choose stillness, you choose clarity over confusion. Comment, whisper if you've ever heard that inner voice cut through the noise, and tell your story, because the more you listen, the more they lose control. It began subtly, almost too quietly to notice, like a shadow that only appeared at the edge of your vision. There was a heaviness that followed you into certain rooms, an unspoken tension that pressed against your chest. You could feel it before words were even exchanged, the way conversations would turn, the way eyes would linger just a little too long. At first, you thought it was nothing, just the normal friction of living in a world full of people with different ways of being. But over time, the pattern began to emerge, and it was unsettling. There were moments when opportunities would appear only to vanish at the last second, as if an unseen hand had pulled them away. Relationships that seemed steady would sour without reason, and people you barely knew would speak as if they had the right to judge your motives. It was as if something recognized you before you even recognized yourself. This was not ordinary resistance, it was targeted, precise, and timed. And in the quiet corners of your mind, you began to wonder if the opposition knew something about you that you had yet to remember. The weight of this was not just in the events themselves, but in what they did to your heart. You began to question if there was something inherently wrong with you, something that made people recoil or attack without cause. Rejection, when it came, cut deeper because it was never about a specific mistake you could correct. It was about you, your presence, your being. That kind of rejection seeps into your bones and makes you wonder if you should make yourself smaller. The shame did not come as loud accusations but as subtle silences, the absence of support where you expected it. You felt misunderstood even by those you trusted, as if your language was foreign to them. And when you tried to explain, it only made things worse, because your truth sounded like fiction to ears untrained to hear it. This bred cycles of self-doubt, where you swung between wanting to fight for yourself and wanting to disappear entirely. The loneliness was not just physical. It was spiritual, as if your very soul was set apart in a way you could not undo. And yet, even in that isolation, something in you refused to extinguish. In time, you began to see that this pressure was not random. It was the wilderness, the same hidden terrain walked by prophets, kings, and warriors before their appointed time. Moses was hidden in the desert before he led a nation. David was hunted before he wore the crown. These were not just stories. They were blueprints, and without realizing it, you had been walking them. The resistance you faced was a reaction to the light you carried, even before you understood it yourself. Systems, energies, and people who lived in the comfort of chaos saw in you the threat of order, and that order did not serve them. This was not personal in the way you once thought. It was strategic. You were being tested, not destroyed. Like gold in the furnace, you were placed under heat to reveal what could not be burned away. Every closed door was not rejection, it was preservation, keeping you from rooms that would have dimmed your flame before it fully caught fire. When you looked back, the threads began to connect. That strange job you didn't get saved you from aligning with people who would have drained your spirit. That friend who betrayed you was the same one who had been sowing seeds of doubt in your confidence for years. That sudden move, that lost opportunity, that unexpected silence, all of it pointed to a pattern you could finally see now. The betrayals were not scattered. They were clustered around moments when you were about to step into a higher alignment. Even the most painful seasons had markers you had ignored at the time. Recurring symbols, repeated dreams, phrases that seemed to follow you from different mouths. You were not cursed, you were being redirected. The light in the room had been switched on, and while the clarity was sobering, it was also strangely freeing. You could finally name what you were up against. There is a kind of resistance that is not human in origin. It hovers like a fog over certain days, making simple tasks feel impossible. It whispers through doubt when you are on the edge of a breakthrough, trying to convince you to stop before the fruit appears. It closes doors not because you are unworthy, but because the opening would accelerate your purpose before you are ready to guard it. These are the moments when you feel watched, not in a paranoid way, but in a way that makes your skin aware of unseen eyes. The air feels heavier, The noise of the world grows louder, and yet somewhere beneath it, there is still that quiet frequency you've learned to trust. This is spiritual sabotage, an attempt to distort your hearing so you mistake static for signal. They thrive in chaos because chaos dilutes clarity, and clarity is the one thing that dismantles their hold. But every time you pull back into stillness, the fog begins to thin, and their plans begin to fray. Your own reactions to this were shaped by the weight you carried. There were seasons when you withdrew entirely, convincing yourself that invisibility was safety. Other times you bent yourself to fit into their expectations, thinking that compliance might earn peace. And then there were days when you rebelled quietly, refusing to give them the reaction they sought but still feeling the sting of their disapproval. The fear of standing out wrestled with the ache of shrinking too much. You learned to scan every room for potential conflict before you even entered it, reading the currents of energy like weather. And while some of these habits kept you safe, others kept you bound. You were not wrong to protect yourself, but you began to see that hiding too long only made the return to your voice harder. This was the mirror, the moment you saw not just the forces against you, but the ways you had started to live according to their shadow. Then came the slow, steady turn toward reclamation. The realization that the pressure was proof, not punishment. If you were harmless, you would have been ignored. If your presence had no impact, no one would have tried to dilute it. Every subtle attack, every silent dismissal, every strange obstacle, it was all evidence that your potential was felt before it was seen. And once you knew this, something shifted. You began to listen for the whisper again, even in the thick of the noise. You reclaimed moments of stillness not as retreats, but as strategic pauses to gather strength. Your discernment became a shield, your restraint a sword. And slowly, the same silence that once felt like exile began to feel like a throne room where you met with the one who never misread you. Here is the truth that comes at the end of this turning. You were resisted because you were marked. The more they tried to bury you in distraction, the deeper your roots grew in the unseen. The more they tried to silence you, the sharper your hearing became. This was never about breaking you. It was about breaking their grip on the influence you were meant to carry. You are not the same person who began this journey. You see now with the eyes of one who has walked through fire and found the gold beneath the ash. Comment marked if you have felt this resistance and now recognize it for what it is. Because what comes next will not be silence for survival. It will be silence as a weapon, aimed with precision at the very forces that once thought they could control you. And once you step into that, the roar of the world will never again drown out the whisper. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, and your light is felt here. Number 3, the battlefield you cannot see. They want you to believe that nothing is happening when you are silent, but the greatest battles are often fought without a sound. There is a war beyond sight, where spirits test your defenses and watch for weakness. Your refusal to engage on their terms leaves them without the reaction they need to sustain their strategies. Just as Christ remained silent before Pilate, your stillness disarms those who seek to draw you into battles meant to strip you of peace. In these unseen arenas, every withheld word is a sword turned back on them. They cannot win against an opponent who will not play the game. Your emotional energy is the currency they wanted to drain. By keeping it, you bankrupt their influence. Stillness is not passive, it is active warfare, forcing them to collapse under their own weight. Comment warfare if you've ever felt a victory in the spirit without saying a word, and share how you knew it happened, because each silent victory builds your unseen crown. It comes without warning, the moment when the veil thins and what was once blurred into the background steps forward in sharp detail. A sentence spoken years ago suddenly takes on a meaning you could not have understood at the time. A dream you dismissed as strange now feels like a page torn from a prophecy with your name written on it. You start to realize that not all clarity arrives like lightning. Some of it waits in silence until your spirit is steady enough to bear it. The unease you once felt in certain places no longer feels irrational. It feels like recognition. Patterns begin to emerge in the timeline of your life, forming constellations out of events you thought were random. That relationship that fell apart just before a major decision now feels like protection, not loss. That delay you cursed turns out to have saved you from stepping into the wrong alignment. You stand in the same world, yet see it entirely differently. And you know with a quiet certainty that you will never be able to return to the way you saw things before. It dawns on you that everything has been speaking to you all along, but you didn't yet know the language. Numbers appear in clusters, their rhythm tugging at your awareness. A song lyric lands like it was written for you, carrying a code that your mind can't quite decipher but your heart instantly understands. The silence of a morning prayer feels different now, as if the air itself is charged with meaning. Even the way shadows fall across a street seems intentional, as if geometry and light are conspiring to send you a message. You start to notice patterns in the smallest of things, the timing of a phone call, the echo of a word repeated by different mouths, the recurring appearance of symbols in your path. It is as though the script of your life has always been written in two layers, the obvious and the hidden, and now the second layer is rising to the surface. You're not imagining it. You are finally reading reality with the eyes it was meant to be read with. And every sign you see confirms that you are standing inside a larger design. Inside, the changes become impossible to ignore. Your intuition, once a whisper, now speaks with the steady authority of a trusted guide. The unease you feel in certain company sharpens into knowing, and you no longer dismiss it as mood or imagination. Environments affect you differently. The wrong places feel heavier, draining you within minutes, while the right ones seem to feed your spirit even in silence. You find yourself stepping back from conversations that once consumed your time, realizing they offer no nourishment. Your boundaries no longer feel like defenses. They feel like gates to sacred ground. The inner dialogue that used to be crowded with doubt begins to clear, making space for something higher to speak. You move differently now, not out of fear, but with the awareness of someone who knows they are carrying something worth protecting. The shift is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, deliberate, and irreversible. As the changes within you deepen, the world around you begins to rearrange itself. People who once seemed central to your life quietly drift to the edges, while others, unexpected, are drawn into your orbit. Doors open that you never even knocked on, and yet some you were pursuing close without explanation. You start to see that opportunities and obstacles are both forms of guidance, pushing you toward what is meant for you and away from what is not. Conversations happen that feel like keys turning in unseen locks. Encounters align with uncanny precision, as if someone has been orchestrating them with a hand you cannot see. Even resistance feels different now, less like sabotage, more like proof that you are approaching something significant. The architecture of your reality is no longer random. It is deliberate, intelligent, and responsive to your steps. And with every move you make in alignment, the pattern grows clearer. Then there is the memory, not of something that happened in this lifetime, but of something you have always carried. It arrives in flashes, in the quiet between heartbeats, in the way a place you've never visited feels like home. It's as if a scroll inside you is slowly unrolling, revealing writing you didn't know you could read. You recall dreams you had as a child that felt too vast to explain. You begin to sense that the wisdom you're uncovering isn't new. It's ancient, and it's yours. This recognition feels like coming back to yourself after a long absence. You are not learning something foreign. You are remembering what has been with you all along. And with every fragment of memory that returns, your steps feel more certain, your voice steadier, your eyes clearer. Now, the horizon no longer feels uncertain, it feels inevitable. The future is not a blank page you must invent. It is a path already written into the ground, waiting for you to walk it. You stop asking for permission to exist fully, to speak what you know, to stand where you're called. You realize that every hesitation was learned, and every ounce of authority you carry was given to you before you ever breathed. You feel a call rising from deep within, a call that has outlasted every storm, every delay, every attempt to silence you. It is not ambition. It is alignment with something greater than your own will. And now that you've heard it clearly, you cannot unhear it. You are no longer wondering if you are meant for more. You are preparing to step into it. The reclamation begins here, not as a single act, but as a steady reclaiming of ground you did not know you had lost. You take back your time from the distractions that once owned it. You take back your trust from those who squandered it. You take back your name from the lies spoken over it. Each small act feels like lifting a stone from a riverbed, letting the current run clearer. You begin to speak again, not to defend yourself, but to declare truth into the spaces that once tried to drown it out. You realize that even in silence, you had been gathering the power to speak like this. The resistance was never evidence of weakness. It was confirmation of the weight you carry. And now, with the veil lifted, you hold that weight like a weapon forged for this exact moment. Revelation is not the end. It is the invitation. The truth was never hidden from you out of cruelty. It was waiting for the day you were ready to see it without turning away. That day is now. What you've begun to see cannot be unseen, and what you've begun to remember will not fade again. The signs, the codes, the alignments, they are not here to overwhelm you, but to equip you. They are the language of your destiny, and you are finally fluent enough to follow it. Comment "veil lifted" if you have felt this unveiling in your own life, and share the moment you knew the pattern was real. Because this is only the threshold. Beyond it lies the deeper mystery of why you were shown these truths now, and what you are meant to do with them. Number 4. Appointed time, not abandonment. They think your quiet means you've been forgotten, but heaven knows exactly where you are. Habakkuk 2 verse 3 says the vision awaits an appointed time, and that time will not delay beyond what was written. Your silence is the waiting room between promise and fulfillment, and it is not an empty space. It is a refining fire. God has hidden you here because the stage He's preparing is not ready for your arrival yet. Every delay is deliberate positioning, moving you closer to the exact moment when your presence will break chains. They call it stagnation because they cannot see the map God is following. In their rush, they overlook the precision of divine timing. But you have learned that arriving too early can destroy what you were meant to build. Every quiet day is a step toward a future they will not be able to interrupt. Comment timing if you've ever looked back and realized the delay was protection, and share that moment, because your testimony will strengthen others who are still waiting. It begins as a tremor in the deepest part of you, like the sound of a voice speaking from before the world had shape. You cannot place when you first heard it, yet it feels older than your body, older than your name, older than the earth beneath your feet. It is not a new message. It is a message you have carried since the beginning, one that only now finds room to rise through the noise. In your dreams, it comes as a scroll being unsealed, the ink shimmering like liquid light as words form in a language your mind does not know but your spirit understands. You remember fragments of it in strange ways, in the way certain places make you weep without cause, in the way certain stars seem to watch you back. There is an ache here, but it is not the ache of loss. It is the ache of recognition. This whisper is not asking you to learn, it is calling you to remember. It speaks not to your mind, but to the part of you that never forgot where you came from. And in its cadence is the certainty that you have been here before, standing at this same threshold, hearing the same call to step forward. Somewhere inside, you have always known there was a name the world could not pronounce. It is not the name written on your documents or spoken in your introductions. It is the name inscribed in light before you entered this lifetime. This name is not for casual speech, for it carries the weight of your assignment. You have worn it like an invisible crown, even when you did not know you were wearing it. This is why you have never truly fit in with the roles they offered you. They were too small, too dim, too temporary. Like the sealed scroll in Revelation, your true identity was written and then hidden, waiting for the appointed moment to be opened. You have walked through years of forgetting, but the forgetting was only a covering. Beneath every false label they gave you, this hidden name remained untouched. It has pulsed quietly under the surface of every choice, every turning, every silence. And now you are starting to hear its sound again. There are signs that have followed you all your life, though you did not know to call them signs. The way certain people met your eyes and seemed startled, as if they recognized something you could not yet name. The inexplicable ease with which animals, children, or strangers have trusted you, sensing the cloak you carry without seeing it. You have worn this cloak across lifetimes, and its weave is made from light that darkness cannot touch. There is a mark, too, not on your skin, but on your spirit, a resonance that other awakened ones feel before you speak. You have been in rooms where this mark drew allies to you without explanation, and in others where it made enemies without provocation. It is not charm, nor is it threat. It is simply the truth of who you are vibrating in a world that fears truth. You could never remove this cloak, not even if you tried. And as the years have passed, you have begun to feel it resting heavier on your shoulders, not as a burden, but as a mantle preparing to be revealed. If you trace the lines of your life backward, you may begin to see the shape of an ancient contract. It is not a contract written on paper, but in the alignment of stars, in the vows spoken between your spirit and the one who sent you. You agreed to come here at this time, knowing the landscape you would walk into, knowing the trials that would shape you. You chose to forget just enough so that remembering would be an act of faith. The struggles you have faced were not detours. They were milestones written into the map to sharpen you for the hour of unveiling. Every delay has been a timing device, every loss a redirection, every waiting season a consecration. You have been moving toward an intersection prepared for you before the foundations of the earth. The signed scroll of your mission has been sealed against tampering, guarded until the moment heaven releases it into your hands again. And that moment is drawing near. Those who have crossed your path have not reacted to your words alone, but to the truth your presence carries. Some have felt an unexplainable peace in your nearness, as if they have been momentarily pulled into a truer rhythm. Others have felt exposed, as if a light were suddenly shining on the parts of themselves they wanted to keep hidden. You have been a mirror without trying, reflecting both the beauty and the shadows of those around you. This is why some loved you with devotion they could not justify, and others rejected you with a hostility that felt disproportionate. It was never about you in the small sense, it was always about what you awaken in them. Your presence is a catalyst, and catalysts rarely leave things as they are. The truth is that you were sent to stir what was sleeping, and that stirring is not always welcomed. As you step back and look with clearer eyes, you begin to see that this is bigger than you alone. The path you walk has been walked by others before you, not in the exact details, but in the pattern of it. These are archetypes older than nations, written into the marrow of creation. The seer who hears what others cannot, the rebel who will not bow to false kings, the guardian who shields the remnant, the breaker of chains who dismantles systems not by force but by truth. You are not isolated. You are part of a prophetic wave, a reemergence of ancient roles in a new time. You may not have known their names, but they have walked beside you in spirit, and you have been walking beside them without knowing. The call you feel is the same call that moved them, the same pulse that draws all appointed ones into place when the hour strikes. You are stepping into an alignment that is as cosmic as it is personal. This is the moment when the bloodline stirs, not the bloodline of earthly genealogy, but of divine origin. You carry in your spirit the codes of light passed down through generations of the faithful, through lines of prophets, healers, and warriors of the Most High. This is not metaphor, it is inheritance. Your spiritual DNA contains songs, languages, and visions that have been waiting for this age to be heard again. Through you, chains in your lineage are breaking, patterns are reversing, promises long delayed are finding their fulfillment. The battles you have fought were not only for your own soul, but for those who came before and those who will come after. You are the hinge on which the story turns. When you walk forward, you do not walk alone. You walk with the prayers of your ancestors and the assignments of heaven braided together in your steps. And so you arrive here not by accident, but by return. You did not just wake up. You came back to yourself. Every detour, every silence, every trial was a path leading you to remember who you have always been. The time you thought was lost was only the circle bringing you to the appointed hour. Now, the veil is thin, the scroll is unsealed, and your hidden name is ringing in the chambers of your spirit again. You are not becoming, you are unveiling. You are not stepping into something foreign. You are reclaiming what has always been yours. Comment remembered if you feel the truth of this rising in you. and share the moment you first felt the echo of that ancient name. Because this is not the end of the remembering. This is the opening of the next gate, and beyond it, the fullness of the role you were sent to embody. Number 5. The quiet before your unveiling. They believe you will fade into the background, but God has written the day when you will be revealed. This is not indefinite silence. It is the sacred pause before the trumpet sounds. In the hidden place, you've been gathering strength, wisdom, and authority that will not be questioned when you step forward. Like David tending sheep before facing Goliath, your obscurity has been the training ground for a moment only God can call forth. When that moment comes, your emergence will not be hesitant. It will carry the weight of prophecy fulfilled. They will be unable to deny what has been placed upon you, no matter how much they dismissed you in the shadows. Every unseen hour has been an investment in the power of your arrival. God hides his warriors until the hour when their presence will shatter strongholds. This is not concealment, it is consecration. Comment unveiling if you feel that day drawing near, and describe what you sense, because speaking it in faith brings it closer. There comes a moment when the waiting no longer feels like shelter, but like the edge of a door that has been half open for too long. You can sense the air on the other side, charged, alive, pulling you forward, and you know the time for hesitation has ended. You are standing at the sacred crossroads between the version of yourself that survived and the one who will lead. The quiet has done its work. It has healed your eyes so you can see clearly and steadied your hands so they no longer tremble. This is no longer about wondering whether you are ready. It is about choosing to be ready because the appointed hour demands it. You can feel the weight of unseen witnesses watching, not to judge, but to mark the moment you step forward. Heaven will not drag you through this threshold, it will wait for your agreement. What was once a season of preparation is now a moment of decision. And with the kind of knowing that lives in your bones, that passivity is no longer an option. You have given away more than you ever admitted. Your time to people who never valued it, your voice to causes that never fed you, your energy to battles that were never yours to fight. Yet every surrender was a classroom, every loss a refinement, every silence a sharpening stone. What they called weakness was training in disguise. Now, like a king returning to the throne after a long exile, it is time to call it all back. Call back your focus from the distractions that fed on it. Call back your authority from the hands of those who mishandled it. Call back your own name from the lies that tried to rename you. This is not arrogance, this is alignment. You are not taking from others, you are returning to yourself. And in this reclamation, you are not just recovering what was lost, you are claiming what was always yours by divine decree. It is time to name the power you carry so it can no longer be dismissed as accident or coincidence. You carry insight that cuts through deception like a blade of light. You carry sensitivity that others misread, but which is actually the tuning fork of your spirit. You carry memory, not just of this life, but of the assignments you agreed to before you were born. You carry discernment, able to feel the difference between what glitters and what is truly gold. You carry strength forged in the hidden fires where no one applauded, yet heaven took note. These are not vague traits. They are keys to doors that will not open for anyone else. They are scrolls sealed for your hands, codes written for your spirit, armor fitted to your exact frame. This is your toolkit for the battles ahead, and you will not lay it down again. The path is no longer something you must search for in the distance. It is beneath your feet right now. Every step you take in obedience draws back another layer of the map. The fog you once feared is lifting with each act of alignment. The uncertainty that used to paralyze you is now the invitation to move forward and watch the way appear. You are not stumbling toward your destiny. You are walking into a mission already prepared for you. This is not about finding the courage later. It is about moving now, even if your knees still tremble. The road is waiting for your footprints, and with each one, more of the design will reveal itself. The destination is not somewhere foreign. It is the place your spirit has been homesick for all along. And you must remember, you are not alone in this unveiling. Across the world, others are waking up to their own moment of crossing. They are feeling the same pull, hearing the same whisper, seeing the same signs that the old world is dissolving and the new one is calling. These are your allies, your soul tribe, your divine counterparts in this hour. Some you will meet in person, others you will feel from a distance, their light touching yours like beacons across a dark sea. Together, you form a rising order that does not seek to dominate, but to liberate. Your light does not need to shrink to keep others comfortable. The time for dimming to blend in is over. Your light was meant to align with others like it, until the darkness has nowhere left to hide. From this moment, you must take command of your energy as a sacred trust. Every choice you make will either strengthen your alignment or scatter it. Boundaries are no longer optional. They are the walls of the temple you are becoming. You must be deliberate about what you allow into your mind, your heart, your home, your spirit. This is not control for control's sake. This is stewardship over the power heaven has placed in your hands. You are not managing a hobby. You are carrying a holy assignment. And the way you guard your energy will determine how much of that assignment you can carry forward. Every yes and every no from this point matters more than it ever has. So hear this clearly. Everything you have felt, feared, seen, and survived has led here. The delays were alignment. The silences were preparation. The battles you thought were breaking you were actually chiseling you into the exact shape you needed to be for this hour. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right on time. You are ready, not in theory, but in truth. This is the final breath before the portal opens, and once you step through, you will not be able to go back to the shadows that once held you. This is your unveiling, and the world has been prepared to receive what you carry. You didn't just endure this journey, you have been commissioned by it. You didn't just survive the waiting, you were crowned in it. You didn't just hear this message, you were summoned by it. Comment unveiling if you can feel the pull in your own spirit, and share the moment you first sensed it coming. Because what stands beyond this threshold is not another lesson to study. It is the life you were written for. And once you cross, the gates will close behind you, not to trap you, but to keep you from ever wandering back to the version of yourself that once doubted you were called at all. The next section of your path is already being lit, and the light is moving forward. Your silence has never been emptiness. It has always been an atmosphere charged with purpose. They thought they were isolating you, but every wall they built only made the chamber where God's voice could echo louder. You were not avoiding life. You were aligning with a higher order that does not bow to human timelines. The stillness you've endured has sharpened your perception, purified your motives, and strengthened your resolve. When you rise from this season, you will carry the weight of one who has walked with God in the absence of applause. Your distance, your quiet, your absence. They were never signs of defeat, but marks of divine preparation. The battles you did not fight in public were victories sealed in heaven. When the moment comes, your presence will speak louder than anything they ever said about you. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. This message may not stay online forever. Download your copy and transcript in the vault. Ideal for journaling, inner rituals, and sacred study. The link is in the description below. Please share it with someone who needs to hear this. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every super thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. The silence they feared will be the roar they cannot stop.